In a quiet countryside where green hills rolled gently beside a peaceful stream, there lived an elderly woman named Emma. She had spent many years alone since her husband passed away, yet she never felt lonely. With no children or riches, Emma lived simply but fully, finding joy in the little things that made up her days. Her small cottage stood at the edge of the village, surrounded by a modest garden where vegetables and fruit trees grew under her care. It wasn't much by worldly standards, but to Emma, it was more than enough. What made her days brighter was the presence of her loyal companion, Daisy, a small white hen with soft feathers and a bright red comb. Daisy followed Emma everywhere, as if she truly understood her, and perhaps she did. Every morning, just as the sky began to glow with the first light of dawn, Daisy would lay a single warm, smooth egg. Emma would gently pick it up, hold it in her wrinkled hands, and whisper with a smile, "One is enough." She would boil the egg, eat half for breakfast, and save the other half for dinner. No rush, no greed, only deep appreciation for each quiet, meaningful moment. For Emma, happiness was never about having more. It was about knowing when she had enough. A warm meal, a cool breeze, a moment of stillness in the garden. These were her treasures. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. Daisy laid 2 eggs instead of 1. Emma chuckled softly and said, "Well, aren't you generous today?" She kept 1 egg for herself and brought the other to the market, exchanging it for a handful of rice and a small piece of jaggery. The next day, and the day after that, Daisy continued laying 2 eggs. Word spread through the village. Neighbors began to offer advice. Sell both eggs. Feed Daisy more, maybe she'll lay 3. Raise more hens and turn it into a business. But Emma simply smiled and said, "1 for me, 1 to share. That's enough." True to her words, Emma kept 1 egg for herself and gave the other to someone who needed it more. A poor family, a tired child walking home from school. Sometimes, she'd quietly leave the egg on a doorstep, expecting nothing in return. The villagers affectionately began calling her Egg Emma. Not for how many eggs she had, but for how much love she gave. To Emma, the real joy was not in receiving, but in giving. Quietly, sincerely, and without fanfare. Even as others urged her to profit, she chose compassion over ambition. When the rainy season came, it brought storms that flooded the land and destroyed crops. Families struggled to survive. Yet through the pouring rain, Daisy still laid 2 eggs each morning. Small miracles in a time of hardship. Because Emma had lived simply and saved carefully, she had jars of pickled and boiled eggs stored away. Without a word, she shared them with the hungry, the elderly, and the children shivering in the cold. Her kindness flowed like the gentle stream she lived beside. Steady, silent, life-giving. One rainy afternoon, a few villagers came to her and asked, "Why didn't you sell more when you had the chance? Why didn't you raise more chickens and make money?" Emma looked at them with gentle eyes and said softly, "Happiness isn't about having a lot. It's about appreciating what we already have and sharing it when we can." To her, keeping what she needed was enough. Anything more was a gift to be passed on. In that moment, her simple truth settled deep into their hearts. They began to understand that true wealth isn't measured by how much we own, but by how open and grateful our hearts are. Emma's life was quiet, but it spoke volumes. In her small home with her modest garden and 1 faithful hen, she lived more richly than most. She gave not out of abundance, but out of love. And in doing so, she filled not only her life, but the lives of everyone around her, with peace. Through her gentle acts of kindness, Emma became a light in the village, a reminder that real happiness isn't something we chase. It's something we create through gratitude, simplicity, and the willingness to give. And in that, she was truly rich. Not in possessions, but in heart.